Yeah, yeah. I think that's all.
A few minutes, I got a meeting to go to.
You do
The budget? Huh? It did? Okay, thank you.
Man,
Hey.
I'm not here to be obnoxious. I'm here because of that.
Uh-huh. You want
But
me?
if Paul Lee handles it, I don't think it's be that.
Okay, you want me to just ask him to? Okay. You should be walking in, but yes, I will ask him.
That would see that.
And then you can go ahead. Yeah, I'll tell him to. Hello?
I'm afraid to touch her stuff.
Diane, do you have the extra check? Yes.
I just said you got a spreadsheet.
Thank you.
I got a separate spreadsheet.
How are you, guys?
Good. Hey,
What happened? I'm fine. And I know.
Did he just ask you, are you good doing his bill? Will you handle Albritton's bill? It's the same as yours. I thought he was gonna ask you, but I told him I would ask you.
Which one is it?
The second one from the bottom.
circuit clerk pay.
Okay.
He didn't mention it.
Isn't that weird? He just said, will you ask him? I gotta go.
Okay.
Kyle's chair.
I gave it to,
You ain't gonna be here?
he had to run home, but Blackshear's gonna, handle his two bills.
They get that, are they gonna offer that amendment from South? I think yesterday.
I have two of them.
Yes.
It's the only thing, I called Kurt this morning, I said, I don't have anything else, I have the two amendments and then.
Two subs.
That's all I have.
That sounds right.
Good afternoon. I've got 1:30, so we'll call this committee meeting of the Ways and Means General Fund to order. Ms. Harper, if you will call the roll, please. Here.
Representative South, Representative Hall, Representative Blackshear, Representative Bracy, Representative Easterbrook, Representative Kitchens, Representative Lamb, Representative Lee, Representative McCampbell, Representative Mooney, Representative Sorrells, Representative Sales, Representative Warren, and Representative Witt. 11, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. If I could, just a special welcome to all of our men and women in uniform here today for the sheriff's bill. And with that said, Ms. Harper, call up the first bill. I think that's what they're here for.
House Bill 320, the sheriffs changed the name of the local government pistol permit revenue loss fund, increased the lifespan of the fund, and further provided for expenditures from the fund and deposits and allocations of grants from the fund.
Representative Bedslow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Absolutely, as y'all may recall or will recall from last year, as we addressed the concealed weapons permits, a portion of that legislation established a fund to help any anticipated shortfalls that might be occurring in the discretionary fund for our sheriffs as a result of possible decline in pistol permit sales. So what we're back here today to consider is some changes with that legislation. And what we'd like to do, the major changes to this. Under last year's bill, we allocated $5 million that could be applied from the sheriffs through a decade of award grants in the shortfalls as it compared to pistol permit revenues from the 2022 year. Today, I'm standing before you to petition for a change that this would increase the amount from $7,500,000, and the lost revenue portion would be compared to the 2021 year. The reason we believe this is a more accurate figure, as we passed that legislation in 2022, pistol permit sales were on the decline and continue to do so throughout the year, knowing in 2023 that pistol permits largely would not be required. So we feel like the 2021 numbers is a more accurate reflection to include or to look at lost revenue. And an increase in that line to $7,500,000 is going to be a better number to look at as sheriffs begin to apply for those grants. Those are the two major portions of this bill, but at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Yes, sir. Mr. Mooney. So moved and second. Ms. Warren, all in favor, say aye.
No.
Aye. Opposed? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Hall.
Thank you. That's right. I'm going to continue to ask questions.
Not that hand up on me.
That's right. Thank you. Could you help me to understand what the name change mean? Why is that the name? Why do you having you went from local government loss fund to advancement in education, technology, and training fund? What is that?
Yeah, I think for me personally, we always want to be more positive in our reflection on what we're trying to accomplish here. And knowing a lot about what these sheriffs are doing with that lost revenue is they're actually advancing what they're doing in their training budgets and technology. And this was such a fantastic way that at the disposal of the sheriffs, all 67, would use these discretionary funds from pistol permit sales to increase their training and technology. Possibly some of them are even partnering with their local county commission to purchase additional vehicles for their patrol deputies. And so the name change was trying to be more reflective on really what we're trying to do is advance their ability to increase training and technology within their respective.
And so didn't we hear some of that, those of us that was on the other side of that permitless carry law, that you indicated you already knew that the amount was declining. Do you have any idea what percentage that was happening in 2021?
I figure here that was provided to the Sheriff's Association. Calendar year 2021 to where we are in 2023, and we've seen a difference in decline of about 70%.
70% of all permit owners, so you had more than 70% of individuals who had previously had permits were no longer getting them.
So calendar year 2021, and if you look at 2023 and extrapolate that out over the course of this year, that number is reflective of 70% decline in the revenue.
Okay. One more. And so the grants that this amount is for will be to increase or improve that technology within their particular county or city?
Yeah, so it'll still be incumbent upon the sheriff to make the grant applications in the same process. this bill will set up and specify how that occurs. Once the sheriff make the application to ADECA, the funds are then payable to the county. This bill will further dictate that it will default. County will then move it on to the sheriff within a certain amount of time. But then, counties have legislation that dictates how their funds are used, and this falls to local legislation. And like I said, mostly that falls in line with the advancement of education technology.
And am I reading this correctly? Is it sunsetting this or just saying beginning 2023
Yes, ma'am. It does have to sunset.
with the 5 years? Am I reading that correct? For up to 5 years?
2028 or 2029. 29. If you remember, when we passed it or moved it out of the House, there wasn't a sunset attached to it. I think it made it to the Senate that was sent back to us and agreed upon. And so this simply sets it out another 5 years once and if this is passed.
All right. Thank you. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Any other questions? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Your bill receives a favorable report. Good luck. Move to the calendar. Thank you, sir. Again, thank you, sheriffs, for being here. Call the next bill on the calendar, Ms. Harper.
Fiscal year 24 State General Fund, Governor's recommended.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. If there's no objection from the committee, I'll maintain the chair today. I typically hand that off to my co-chair, but he had to leave suddenly today, and if there's no objections, then I'll maintain the chair. We'll move forward. House Bill 124 is the governor's recommended fiscal year 2024 general fund budget, which reflects $3,008,953,315, which reflects a 3.81% increase over the current 2023 budget. An increase of $110,436,315. This is a good, sound budget for Alabama, and we sure appreciate the work of Governor Ivey and her staff, Director Poole, sir, you and your staff, and the Executive Budget Office. We appreciate all of you very much. Of course, our physical office here within the legislative facility, Kirk Fulford, his team, we appreciate your work as well. I would committee request to submit an FY 2024 substitute bill. I think, every one of you have had this with the committee, and I know we've also extended that out to the members today that are here. And the proposed budget, the substitute increases the expenditures to $3,024,167,948, a difference of $15,045,000. That increase is based on the Legislative Fiscal Office's increased revenue projections for both FY '23 and FY '24. And just want to, and I covered some of this during the joint caucus presentation yesterday, but just provide those here today and those listing some factors that provides us a confidence in that increased revenue. And they are among several, $153,873,000 increase in the interest on state deposits, obviously because of the increase in rates right now that we're experiencing. Insurance premium tax increase over 4%, reflected about a $10.4 million increase. Our SSUT tax, a 19.8% increase, reflecting about $22.8 million increase. Our use tax increase of 10.7, which reflected $17,100,000 in increase. So with that, I would answer any questions related to the sub and ask the committee to approve the substitute committee budget. Excuse me. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Rowe. I want to thank you for your work in putting a previously non-funded by the general fund mandate from the legislature to a group, that being the Alabama Crime Victims Compensation Commission. They normally get all of their funds through court order fees and things. last, I don't know, probably 7, 8, 9 years, they're basically at about 61% of where they were in 2002. They have not been in our budget, but it is greatly appreciated that you have put them in. I guess because I have some victims who are very close and have heard their situation quite often. It's meaningful and very meaningful to me. I know to them it is as well. I would hope everyone would realize, though, that we are backlogged 1,923 cases in that crime victims area compensation. That's the reason that I had asked a very specific question about our funding domestic violence and also too, but not looking at overall victim compensation. Thank you again for putting it in and getting it started. Because we wouldn't have had this amount if you hadn't heard the need and responded to the need. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative Mooney. I did meet with them at length and certainly understand the impact of our court systems being closed for probably over a year and a half. And the governor did actually put that in the budget, and she committed $100,000. And you know the asking of the approval today will increase that by $400,000.
It's needed. It obviously is. I mean, I think they once had like 32 employees and they're now down to 17. They just don't have funds. It's not working through the court system the way we had set it up, the mandated work they had to do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. Any other questions?
Motion for favorable report.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? So now we have the substitute on the table, and would entertain a motion for favorable report. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Thank you. HB 124 receives a favorable report. Next bill on the calendar, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 125, fiscal year 23, general fund supplemental appropriation bill.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. Committee members, HB 125 is the governor's recommended FY 2023 supplemental appropriations bill, $188,573,865. And from the governor's office is supporting and providing additional funds, as well as new funding for both state agencies and public entities. I would ask the committee to approve and accept a substitute bill, taking the appropriations to $201,738,865, which is an increase of $13,265,000. I'll go through some key increases here, and each one of you received a spreadsheet before the committee meeting, and certainly we can refer to any of those and ask questions about those, and I'll be glad to address them. Some of the key increases was $1.9 million, $1.925 million to HDECA for several community projects, $1.2 million to public health projects, $8.490 million to ALEA, and that is for a new criminal history system and additional enforcement of vaping related laws. That's a new line item there. And like I say, the others are in your packet. So I entertain any questions you may have. I would ask the adoption of the committee sub.
Move for adoption sub.
Have a motion. Second. Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? So we now have the committee sub on the floor, and I would ask, tell you what, let me go over just a couple of the supplemental highlights on it as well, just as we did in the other one. We have an increase, these are just the larger amounts, and you'll see on your spreadsheet all of them, but the increase to the regional planning commissions by $600,000, that's your TARCOGs in everyone's communities. There was a $2 million increase to the Airport Development Grant Program, and that increases our capacity to pull down federal dollars. We have a $2 million increase to the community provider rates, and also a $2 million increase to community health centers. And the last one was the appropriation highlighted in the first bill that you heard today related to taking the sheriff's funding from $5 to $7.5 million. Any questions? I would ask for final approval on HB 125. Have a motion? And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? HB 125 has a favorable report. Thank you, committee members. Appreciate that. And thank you, Ms. Harper, for all your work on these bills as well. And call the next bill on the calendar, please.
House Bill 279, Medicaid circumstances for revising reimbursement rates to nursing facilities revised.
Representative Blackshear.
Thank you, Chairman. I see Ms. Azar here. If we have any questions, I'm pinch hitting from Representative South this afternoon. But HB 279, you have the information in your packet today pertaining to nursing home facilities. With Medicaid, currently the ceilings that they set annually of the reimbursement amounts are not subject to where they can be moved once they're set unless they find there's some type of material error. What this bill would do, and we found out during COVID, where once again, when you have some type of major emergency, this will give Medicaid, specifically around nursing homes, the ability to fluctuate and raise that ceiling if so necessary for reimbursement purposes back through the nursing homes from a Medicaid perspective.
Any questions from the committee? Do I have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? HB 279 receives a favorable report. Next bill on the calendar, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 155, fiscal year 24 Coalition Against Domestic Violence Appropriation Bill.
Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This bill is appropriating $169,633 from the general fund to Coalition Against Domestic Violence for the year 2023, ending September 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Any questions? To entertain a motion?
Motion.
So moved. Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? HB 155 receives a favorable report. Next bill on the calendar, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 126, Medicaid Emergency Reserve Fund.
Representative Blackshear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 126, and I do have two amendments that are pretty much clerical in purposes we'll get to in a moment. But HB 126 will establish a Medicaid Emergency Reserve Fund. Again, it's interesting, especially around Medicaid, how much we found out from COVID, a major emergency we had, that sometimes the only way when Medicaid has their budget that they can operate is potentially not pay back the full amount of reimbursements, may have to be cut at times, which was not what we want. So this establishes the reserve fund, so Medicaid will have a bucket of money if something does happen again, that they can fully pay out the reimbursements that are on the table instead of having to wait to the next year to try to find some type of funds. This reserve is capped at $100 million. The original is going to be funded with $88 million that will be just carried over that was already within their budget. So this is not net new dollars for everything. So make sure we're key on that, not net new dollars. So with that, as we move.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from the committee? Entertain a motion in
We
favor?
got 2 amendments.
I got two amendments on that one.
So that's,
I didn't see there any questions.
Let's do
Right. First amendment is replace line 63 on page 3 with the following: shall send the same notification to thee. Also replace line 90 on page 4 with the following: there is hereby appropriated $88 million from the Medicaid State General Fund to carry forward account to Medicaid.
okay. So committee, we have the amendment on the table. Any questions on the amendment? Ms. Hall?
It was,
What does that mean?
it was missing a from. So it said the money was appropriated, it just didn't say where the money was coming from. So this is making sure that the bill says where the money's coming from to get it over to the reserve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
Motion for approval.
So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, second amendment, replace lines 104 through 106 on page 5 with the following: are eligible investments for the state treasurer as authorized by subsections B, C, and D of section 41-14-30 Code of Alabama 1975, all interest earned on thee.
Any questions on the second amendment on the table? Ms. Hall?
What does that mean?
It's clarifying what the money can be invested in. This is going to be held in a fund and the funds can be invested. So this is just clarifying how the funds can be invested. And the same thing that the treasurer can already invest funds in.
So this will be based on Medicaid's recommendation or the treasurer?
The treasurer is going to handle the investment of the funds, Medicaid's not.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a second amendment on the floor. Do I have a motion? Got a motion? A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Now we're back on voting on the original bill. Do I entertain a motion?
Move to approve as amended twice.
Representative Lee? Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? HB 126 receives a favorable report. Next bill.
House Bill 127, year 24, Children's First Trust Fund Appropriation Bill.
Representative Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This year, we will be transferring $39,997,848 from the Children's Trust Fund to Alcoholic Beverages Control Board, Children's Trust Fund, Department of Prevention Science, Alabama Department of Human Resources, Juvenile Probation Services Fund, Alabama Medicaid Agency, Alabama Department of Mental Health, State Multiple Needs Children's Fund, Department of Public Health, Department of Rehabilitation Services, Department of Youth Services. In addition, we will be appropriated from the tobacco settlement funds a sum of $50,511,261, and those funds will be going to Department of Early Childhood Education, 21st Century Debt Service, Senior Services Trust Fund, and the Alabama Medicaid Agency, the Department of Senior Services, the Medicaid waiver. With all that, I ask.
Thank you, Ms. Warren. Any questions from the committee?
I
Do
move
I have a
to give-
motion?
I move to give the bill a favorable report.
We have a motion. We have a second by Blackshear. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? HB 127 receives a favorable report. Next bill.
Bill 154, fiscal year 24, 2% COLA for state employees.
All right, thank you. I'm carrying this for Representative
Okay, Ms. Hall?
Gracie. This bill provides for a salary increase of 2% effective October 1, 2020 for state employees. Doesn't apply to any local supplements that would be provided to judges or to any local employees whose salary is tied to that of any state employee.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. And for the committee members, that was a line item in the governor's budget, so the funding has already been approved. Any questions from the committee? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a motion, a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
HB 154 receives a favorable report. Next bill in the committee.
Senate Bill 23, Circuit Clerk's salary based on pay plan of Unified Judicial System.
Representative Lee.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the same bill that I brought in as a House bill. I do not remember the number off the top of my head, but it deals with circuit clerks. As you'll remember, we've addressed court reporters, we've addressed the employees and the judges. This is the last leg, I believe, that needs addressing. It will bump them up to a grade 86. And it will not take effect till January of 2025. I think it is imperative that I do mention there's a note in here that the local areas, county cannot decrease their monies given to them because of this raise. It keeps it all the same. So
Very
that
good.
being said.
Any questions from committee? Representative Mooney. Favorable. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Thank you, Representative Lee.
Thank you.
HB 154 receives a favorable report. Next bill. I'm sorry, that was Senate Bill 23.
Senate Bill 92, Employees Retirement System Provisions of Act 2022-229 extended to allow local participating units additional time to elect to come under the act.
Senator Carnley, welcome.
This bill is just an extension of the bill that was passed last year by the legislature to allow local counties and municipalities to operate one-time retirement bonus to retirees. There is no cost to the state. This is not mandatory. This just opens up a window to allow those, entities, through October the 31st of this year, if they so choose. They would have to put the money up, send it to RSA, and then that would be paid out in December. On average, they're estimating that the bonus is roughly $600 per employee, but it's based on $24 per year of service. And passed last year, it's just opening up a window for those that would like to participate too, not mandatory, and
Thank you. Questions, committee members? Yes, sir. Have a favor, a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Hall. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Your bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate you coming. Yes, sir.
If you would indulge just for a moment, we've been today working with things that relate to human beings and their situation with healthcare, with, our state employees with a 2% raise when we're in, I think the best numbers I've heard are 5.8% right now, still inflation going on. We're doing a variety of things that need to be done for the people of our state. I just want to mention an area that's come to light for me because I know we are very concerned about rural health care. There is an aspect of health care that is not just a problem rurally, but it's a problem urbanly all over the state, and that's skilled nursing. A number of people, and I think it's probably fair for me to say, I know I live in a very wealthy house district because of the nature of the county that I live in and the businesses that are located there and all of that. However, there's no skilled nursing available at this point in time. Tons of assisted living. Nursing homes are very scarce in the area that I live in. It made me start asking the question around the state. And I think Paul and I have talked about this before. We've got a gap that needs to come to light for everybody to know, and it's in skilled nursing. And I would share the story of one of our previous members, the lady that I had the pleasure and opportunity to work with during the 16 years that she served and ran for office, Mary Sue McCurkin. Mary Sue is confined to a skilled nursing facility in Birmingham on Lakeshore. Her husband lives in my house district. I mean, many times I've been to their home. Every day he's making the trek that's 25 to 35 minutes, and I know people drive 50 minutes, 2 hours, whatever, for work. It's a little different when it's a situation that's like this where you have to have the skilled nursing. In checking, this is a problem all over our state. Skilled nursing is a difficult process, and I know it's not a criticism. I would say it's not a criticism of any organizations. It's not a complaint about anybody or anything. It's just a fact that we need to be aware of. Any way that we can try to find to assist in the process of dealing with helping these families who have long been productive members of society and worked hard and served in this body even. We've got to find a way to bridge the gap in skilled nursing in our state. Thank you for indulging me.
I agree with your comments, and I know the 23 supplemental that this committee passed today allocated $1.7 million toward workforce development in that skilled nursing area. So, any other comments? Yeah, any other comments? Thank you, committee, for all your work you did on the budget. Appreciate your support and assistance, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion, but you've done a great job too. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lee. All right.
Appreciate it.
Adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.